Welcome back to my channel. My name is Holly Starkey, fantasy story editor. I edit all subgenres of fantasy. So today's video is going to be another video in my world building series. This video is going to focus on magic, specifically how characters wield magic in your story. So I have done previous videos about magic, and again, magic is a huge topic and it could take many videos to cover all aspects of magic, but I will link to the previous videos I've done on magic in the description box below. So today's video is going to focus on two categories when it comes to how characters wield magic. The category being humans, how humans wield magic, and the other being magical creatures. But before I go on, I want to make just a quick little statement that make sure when you are creating your magic system that you set limits to magic and make sure that magic has some sort of price. I have done a video about this and it will be linked in the description box, but basically make sure that you set limits on your magic, meaning that maybe the person loses energy quickly, or maybe they draw the evil forces towards them, or magic takes a lot of knowledge, to even master a simple spell. So you want to make sure you set some kind of limits on magic, or maybe magic cannot raise people from the dead, or maybe it can, but it has very severe consequences. Maybe you can't time travel with magic. I mean, just make anything you can think of, just make sure there are limits to magic and there's a price to magic, because otherwise you are creating a character that is invincible, and readers don't want to read about that kind of character. It makes your plot predictable and makes the story boring. But on with this video. So the first category is going to be magical creatures, and these are it's its own category when it comes to how characters wield magic, because magical creatures are just magical on their own. And I'm talking about vampires, elves, fairies, dragons, those kind of creatures. Their very existence is magical. Now, within the category of magical creatures, you can have a lot of variety within that. So, for instance, your vampires, usually vampires drink some kind of blood, whether it be animal, genetically engineered, or human blood. But you can also have a vampire that's an energy vampire. So maybe they just drain the energy from a person, and that is how they sustain their immortality. But you can have anything else with your vampires. Maybe they can appear from place to place. Maybe they can make themselves invisible. Maybe they can turn into bats. Maybe they can be killed by a stake through the heart. Maybe that doesn't kill them. There are many options that you can use when it comes to vampires. When I think of a magical creature, I think of the book that I'm currently reading, which is First Grave on the Right. I will, of course, go ahead and type that out in the description box for you. But the main character is the Grim Reaper. So she is magical just by existing. The fact that she is a Grim Reaper and can, help souls, in this version of the Grim Reaper, help souls move on and also see the dead, and also physically interact with it. Like, she can shake a ghost's hand. A lot of times you have people who can't touch a ghost, like you just pass right through them, but in the Grim Reaper can physically touch a ghost and help them move on. So that is a good example of a book with a magical creature as the main character. But I'm sure you can think of many other novels where vampires and elves and fairies and dragons are in the novel, and they have their own special kind of magic. So the second category I want to talk about was humans, and how humans wield magic. So this is I have a lot of examples here about this, and of course I'm going to in the description box I will type out all the books and anything else that I'm referencing, so you can look at that later. But the first category I'm going to use is going to be spell casting as a way that humans can wield magic. And I have like 3 different types of spell casting. Now, there are many types of ways that a character can wield magic, but I'm just going to cover some of the main ways. I have many different ones, but I'm just going to cover the ones that I see most often in books that I edit, or books that I read, or even in movies or TV series that are fantasy. These are just the ones that I see that come up most often. So the first type of spell casting we have is, of course, verbal spells, meaning that, you say whatever the spell is, and whatever you want to happen happens. Like, for instance, you speak a spell for lighting a fire. You speak a spell for creating light. You can speak a spell for, breaking down a door. There are various ways you can do that. I think of course, Harry Potter, but also The Worst Witch, which is a book series and a TV series. The TV series does use more spell casting than the books. The books don't focus that much on the details of magic, but the TV series does. But the Worst Witch series, book or television, and the Harry Potter book or movie are great examples of ways that characters use spell casting through like verbal spell casting. And then a second way is through a mental spell casting. So I think of the Witch's Wen series. When the main character is a grown woman, she's learning magic from her grandmother, but to cast a spell, you have to think about a pattern. So, for example, if I want a sapling to grow into a full-grown tree using magic, what I would do, let's say I think of, a glass of water, an acorn, sunlight, and fertilizer, and I think of it in that specific order, and then the tree grows, and that's how I cast my spell. So that is one way to cast spell. Another way is through patterns, and this is like not patterns that you do in your mind, but patterns that you physically do. So when I think of that, think of the Red Pyramid series by Rick Riordan, where let's say I wanted to break down this wall to the side of me. I would draw with my finger, my wand, my sickle, or whatever instrument I have. I would draw on the wall, and I would draw that magical pattern for destruction, and the wall would blow away, of course, if I drew the pattern right. And there are many rules in his book about which you can use to draw and who can do these magical patterns to make magic happen. But that's just an example of how you can do patterns to do spell casting. So another way that humans wield magic is through elemental magic. And an example of that would be, for instance, when I say elemental magic, I don't mean the element on the periodic table. I mean the elements that are commonly thought of in nature, like water, wind, fire, and earth are the elements. I think I got them all. The ones that are in nature. So Avatar, The Last Airbender is a great example of that. You have characters that can, control various elements. There's more to it than that, but that's a great example, and that is a graphic novel series. Nickelodeon has a TV series, and there's a movie. It's not great. So it's not, you may like it. If you love it, great, but it's not the best. But also you have with that, there is the Secrets of Immortal Nicholas Flamel. I mention this series all the time on my channel, but it is a really great series. But the main characters learn various elements, learn to control various elements throughout the entire series. And of course, I'll mention those below. So that is elemental magic, where you're controlling, an element in nature like fire, wind, water, earth. And those, the Airbender, Avatar, Last Airbender, and the Secrets of Immortal Nicholas Flamel are great examples of that. Also, you have nature magic. So the first example of nature magic I want to give is with potions. So most of the time, in fantasy, a potion is brewed with some kind of item from nature, whether it be an item that exists in our world or an item that exists in the fantasy story world. But you add various items in from nature in various quantities and mix them up, and you create a potion that can do whatever it is that you're trying to have this potion do. Sometimes to make a potion work, you have to stir in a certain way. Sometimes you have to say a certain spell, maybe do a mental spell, or even draw like a pattern over the potion for the potion to work. But oftentimes potion involves nature magic, because certain elements, certain items from nature have their own magical properties, and when you add them together in the right quantities and in the right way, because you usually have to add them in a certain order, then you create a magical potion. So that is one example of nature magic. Another example is using nature to kind of fuel your magic. So for example, if the price of magic in your novel is that you lose energy, you could have nature magic as a way to refuel, energy. Maybe you can draw on the magic from a forest or a river, and that will replenish your magical reserves. A great example of this done in the antagonist point of view is with the Dorothy Must Die series. In the first book, and I only read the first book, I didn't love the series enough to continue with it. But in the first book of Dorothy Must Die, you have, and I'll mention that in the description box, you have Dorothy, who is, the antagonist, and she is stripping the land of its magic and using it to kind of hoard all the magic for herself. So an example, nature has the magic, so the magic is just in the land. And in this example, the character is taking all the magic from nature and keeping it for herself. So that's from an antagonist point of view, and that's Dorothy Must Die. So the next and the last example I want to do was mind magic. So with mind magic, it's really, I think of Lord of the Rings. Remember in movie 1, the scene where Galadriel is speaking to the Fellowship, and she speaks then directly to Frodo using mind magic. And also in, let's say, the Charmed series, the Charmed TV series, you have the oldest sister, Prue, can move items with her mind. So you look, let's say there's a cup right here with water. I can just move the cup towards me by thinking about the cup and maybe visualizing it moving towards me, and that's how I can move that. That is an example of mind magic. And that's all that I have listed, but I wanted to say that, of course, there are many other examples of magic and how it can, be wielded in your story world by your characters. But this is just the most common ways that I see, and you can mix it up. So, for example, in the Worst Witch series, of course, there's verbal spells, but then there's also nature magic with potions. Also, you have nature magic with brooms. So the brooms they have, you can be made from a certain type of wood, so that nature has its own magic and is used. So that's a way to combine nature magic with spells. And then you also have, in the Charmed series, you have Prue, who can do mind magic, but she can also brew potions with this nature magic, cast spells as well. So you can combine them, and even you can have your magical creature, let's say you have a vampire, and your vampire is able to, let's say this vampire is the son or daughter of a witch, and they are able to do some kind of spell casting or potion brewing. Or let's say your elemental person, they can control water as their element, but they can also do mind magic as well. So there are many different combinations you can do. I just think it is helpful to lay out the different types of magic that characters can use when it comes to a novel. And of course, most novels combined the different types of magic, but these are just the most common ones. So at the end of the video, I want to go ahead. I have a couple of announcements I wanted to make quickly. So I'm trying to work out and upload, and it's getting really dark. I'm sorry about that. It's been storming all week here. So the next, I want to try and have a regular upload schedule. So last week I uploaded 3 videos. For this week, I think I'm going to settle on, and from now on, and if it changes, of course, I'll say something, but I want to do Wednesday and Fridays. So my goal is to have the videos uploaded by 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, so that there's more consistency with my channel, so you know when to expect my content. So this Wednesday's video will be uploaded late. It will come out Wednesday evening Eastern Standard Time, but Friday's video will go up live by 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so from Friday onward, I plan to upload by 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time or earlier, so that I want you to know that my videos are Wednesday and Friday, and they will be uploaded in the morning by 9 a.m. And I might do 3 videos a week sometimes, but if I do, it'll be a bonus video. It would come on a day that isn't a Wednesday or Friday. So I just want to let you know, you can definitely expect a new video from me on Wednesdays and Fridays, and there's some weeks there might be a bonus video. And the second announcement I want to do is to let you know I will always use books as examples, but I really want to see about adding in some films and like some movies and some TV series that are fantasy as an example, because every book I mentioned, someone might not have read that book. Not everyone's gonna have read all the books that I mentioned. And of course, it's faster to watch an episode that's like 40 minutes as opposed to read an entire novel if you just want to see how something kind of plays out. So I'm going to be using examples from movies and television, but I will of course continue to use plenty of examples from books as well. And I also want to say, the last announcement is that in the description box, if I will type out kind of the bullet points of what I discussed, and I'll go ahead and write the examples. So I've mentioned the Worst Witch series and The Witch's Wen and Lord of the Rings and Avatar: Last Airbender. I will go ahead and put that all in the description box so you can see an overview of what I was talking about in the video, and also the examples that I was using as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you Friday morning in the next video. Bye.